In the previous season, a massive gate suddenly appeared in the middle of the highway, causing a heavy traffic jam. Soon after, Jin-Woo arrived to take charge of the situation. Without hesitation, he stepped into the gate alone. To his surprise, the gate transformed into a crimson portal, leaving the officials in awe at the strange occurrence. Once inside, Jin-Woo immediately sensed that today was not going to be easy. Realizing he was trapped in the red gate, he regretted not telling his mother that he would be coming home late. Scanning his surroundings, he quickly determined that it wouldn't take long to clear out the monsters in the dungeon. With newfound confidence, he summoned his shadow soldiers, ready to deal with the threat swiftly. The battle between the shadow soldiers and the monsters was brutal, but it ended almost as quickly as it began. The shadow soldiers slaughtered the monsters with ease. Under a light rain, Jin-Woo walked through the kneeling shadow soldiers, who had formed a path for him. As he passed, a thought crossed his mind. The system of this world had drastically changed. Dungeons were now worlds where only survival mattered. Hunters were born to hunt, but monsters weren't the only threat to a hunter. Hunters had to be prepared to become prey at any moment. Even if they faced hundreds of enemies, the hunt would never end. With this resolve in his heart, Jin-Woo moved forward to confront the dungeon boss. The scene then shifted to America, where a hunter was trapped in a high-level dungeon. Fear was written all over his face as a mysterious figure appeared before him, Frost Monarch. The mere presence of this creature brought a chilling aura, creating a suffocating atmosphere. Moments later, a gate opened to reveal Yogiment, the Transfiguration Monarch. Frost Monarch glared at Yogiment, demanding to know his purpose. Yogiment explained that he brought news about a small territory in the east, a place where the Shadow Monarch resided. He also mentioned that the rulers were trying to release something from the Southern Legia, and he needed to go there immediately. Yogiment added that someone, confirmed as the greatest fragment of brilliant light, was in that area. Frost Monarch grinned as he declared his intent to deal with that person himself. However, just as he did, he sensed another powerful presence emanating from the fragment of brilliant light. It was Sun Il-hwan, Jin-Woo's father. Il-hwan stared them down, demanding to know more about the small territory in the east, which they referred to as Korea. Yogiment decided it was time to leave, unwilling to waste any more time on him. Meanwhile, Frost Monarch taunted him, daring him to chase if he was capable. Il-hwan, determined not to let them escape, launched an attack, but Frost Monarch effortlessly blocked it with his ice wall magic. The resulting explosion shook the ground. At the red gate, Jin-Woo finally came face to face with the dungeon boss. The monster carried an air of arrogance, acknowledging Jin-Woo's strength for wiping out his entire horde and daring to confront him alone. The dungeon boss ordered his remaining monsters to show themselves, but to his surprise, nothing appeared. Confusion spread across his face as he wondered what had happened. Jin-Woo found the monster's reaction amusing. He commanded his shadow army to reveal themselves. Moments later, shadows emerged from the bushes, dragging the lifeless bodies of the defeated monsters behind them. The dungeon boss's face contorted with fury. Before he could react, Jin-Woo ordered his army to finish off the remaining monsters. A brutal battle ensued as the shadow soldiers advanced. The surviving monsters tried to resist, but Iron and the High Orc General cut through them effortlessly, slaughtering them without mercy. A few monsters attempted to attack Jin-Woo directly, but Tank lunged forward, protecting him by tearing the attackers apart with his sharp claws. The dungeon boss began to lose control. Before he could release his full fury, Baru and Igris struck with incredible speed, severing his left leg and right arm. The dungeon boss collapsed, helpless. Tusk followed up with gravity magic, pinning the dungeon boss to the ground with crushing force, rendering him completely immobile. Jin-Woo approached the fallen monster, his eyes cold and unwavering. He warned the dungeon boss to answer his questions or face even greater pain. But before the monster could speak, it collapsed and died. Jin-Woo sighed, realizing once again that the system had interfered, preventing him from getting the answers he desperately sought. Determined to uncover the truth on his own, Jin-Woo retrieved a key from his inventory. Now that he had reached level 100, he was able to see the key's details. The description read, Carton Temple Key. This key allows the user to enter the Carton Temple. It can be used at the designated gate and the gate's location will be revealed after a predetermined time. Remaining time, 417 hours. The key brought back memories of the double dungeon incident from his past. Jin-Woo realized the system was leading him back to the place where everything had started, but this time, he was certain things would be different. If all of this had been orchestrated from the very beginning, he vowed to face whatever awaited him at the Carton Temple, no matter the cost. Back at the guild office, Jin-Ho was busy typing away, defending Jin-Woo from online slander. After finishing his work, he leaned back in his chair, relieved and satisfied with his efforts to clear Jin-Woo's name. Suddenly, without a sound, Jin-Woo appeared behind him, startling Jin-Ho, who hadn't noticed his arrival. Jin-Woo handed him a bag filled with high-grade magic crystals and asked him to sell them to help fund the new guild. Jin-Ho smiled, knowing this would ease their future salary concerns. He then reminded Jin-Woo that more members were needed to establish the guild and asked if Jin-Woo had decided on a name yet. Jin-Woo realized they hadn't chosen one yet and suggested Solo Guild, considering that the guild would focus on solo hunts. Jin-Ho was taken aback, finding the name a bit ridiculous, but he couldn't argue since Jin-Woo always fought alone. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. Jin-Ho opened it and was stunned to see Hunter Chae, an S-rank hunter from Korea. Jin-Woo asked why she had come. Hunter Chae explained that she wanted to join their guild. Jin-Woo invited her in and calmly asked her to elaborate on her statement. She confirmed that she was indeed interested in joining. Jin-Woo was surprised and asked if she had been kicked out of Hunter Choi's guild. Hunter Chae clarified that she had not been expelled, her expression serious. Jin-Woo, still curious, pressed further, asking what her true reason for wanting to join was, as their guild couldn't afford someone of her rank. Hunter Chae hesitated, her mind searching for the right words. She vividly recalled her first encounter with Jin-Woo, where his unique scent had made a lasting impression on her. Intrigued by him, she had discreetly looked into his background. Her research revealed that Jin-Woo wasn't a bad person, and she felt a deep sense of gratitude for his heroic actions in rescuing her during the raid on Jew Island. Her face turned red as she thought to herself that she truly hoped Jin-Woo would be with her until the end. However, she was too embarrassed to say it out loud, fearing that Jin-Woo might think she was crazy. Jin-Woo, as clueless as ever, noticed her flushed face and grew suspicious. He pressed her once more, this time more seriously, asking why she wanted to join. Shyly, Hunter Chae replied, "I just want to live comfortably." "Is that not allowed?" Jin-Woo was taken aback by her response, surprised by her honesty. Meanwhile, Jin-Ho whispered to himself, wondering what Jin-Woo had done to make Hunter Chae act so strangely. Still confused, Jin-Woo figured the pressure of being an S-rank hunter at such a young age might be taking a toll on her. To change the subject, Jin-Woo casually mentioned that their guild had a registration test, which surprised Jin-Ho, who thought it was a lie. But before he could respond, Jin-Woo cut him off and told him to go buy drinks and snacks. Hunter Chae, curious, asked what kind of test she would need to take. Jin-Woo suggested she face off against one of his strongest shadow soldiers. Taking the challenge seriously, Hunter Chae immediately asked when the test would begin. Jin-Woo replied that it would happen right away at the Hunter Association's gym. For a moment, Jin-Woo considered testing his shadow exchange ability to see if it could work with more than one person. As Hunter Chae moved to open the door, Jin-Woo stopped her. Stepping closer, he wrapped an arm around her and said there was an easier way to get there. With that, he activated his shadow exchange skill, and both of them were enveloped in black shadows, disappearing from the room. Meanwhile, Jin-Ho returned with the snacks, only to be stunned to find both of them gone. In their place stood one of Jin-Woo's shadow soldiers. Moments later, Jin-Woo and Hunter Chae had already arrived at the Hunter Association's gym. Hunter Chae was shocked by the sudden move, while Jin-Woo, on the other hand, realized that this scenario had unfolded exactly as he had expected. He thought about his shadow exchange ability, which allowed him to teleport with others by using his shadow soldiers as intermediaries. It was like a gate that could take him anywhere, as long as there was a shadow soldier to act as a destination. Jin-Woo then suggested starting the test, but Hunter Chae pointed out that she didn't have her weapon. Jin-Woo assumed she meant a pickaxe, which made Hunter Chow embarrassed. She clarified that it wasn't her weapon, then decided to borrow one from the gym storage, using her ID card to access the Hunter Association's locker. She chose a sword and prepared for the spar. Jin-Woo summoned Igris, explaining that he was the best swordsman among his soldiers. He set a simple rule: Hunter Chow had to defeat the summon to win, and giving up would mean losing. Although Jin-Woo considered summoning Baru, he decided against it, fearing it might be too overwhelming for Hunter Chow, especially after their previous fight. Hunter Chow took her stance, her sword glowing with magical energy. Seeing her aura, Jin-Woo was surprised and asked her to turn around for a moment. Swiftly, Jin-Woo pulled the Demon King's longsword from his inventory and handed it to Igris. The sword now rested in the Shadow Soldier's hands, ready for battle. Igris started the fight with a powerful slash, his sword crackling with lightning that shattered the gym floor. But Hunter Chow dodged nimbly and immediately counterattacked, which Igris parried with ease, creating a shockwave that shook the entire gym. Jin-Woo watched the fight with keen interest, clearly impressed by Hunter Chae's skill. In his office, Chairman Mr. Go felt a powerful surge of energy emanating from the gym. Realizing a sparring match was taking place, he immediately contacted his staff to display the gym's camera footage on the screen in his office. As he watched, he saw Jin-Woo and Hunter Chow battling. He wondered when they had arrived and recalled Hunter Chae's odd behavior after the Jew Island raid. Mr. Go began to suspect that Hunter Chae might have feelings for Jin-Woo. Without wasting time, he ordered the cameras to be turned off and instructed his staff to ensure no inspections took place that day. Suddenly, a massive tremor shook his office, signaling that the battle in the gym had reached a critical point. Back in the gym, Igris had already been defeated by Hunter Chow. Jin-Woo was taken aback by how quickly Igris had been beaten. Hunter Chow, confident in her strength, doubted the effectiveness of the summoned Shadow Knights and urged Jin-Woo to summon the Ant King to fight her. Jin-Woo hesitated, warning that Hunter Chow could be hurt if he summoned Beirut. However, Hunter Chow insisted, showing determination to face the Ant King once again. Jin-Woo reluctantly summoned Beirut. Though Beirut had weakened slightly after becoming a shadow soldier, he was still a deadly weapon designed to hunt hunters. Beirut asked Jin-Woo what he should do. Jin-Woo ordered him to defeat Hunter Chow without causing harm. Beirut acknowledged the command and unleashed a wave of magical energy, which shattered all the lights in the gym. From a distance, Hunter Chow felt a sense of unease, wondering how Jin-Woo could command such a powerful monster. Beirut prepared to strike with his sharp claws, but Jin-Woo immediately warned him not to use them, emphasizing that if Hunter Chow got hurt, Beirut would be the one to face consequences. Confused but obedient, Beirut held back from a distance. Hunter Chae fixed her gaze on Beirut, studying him intently, contemplating the vast difference in power between them. As she thought about her strategy, Beirut suddenly appeared behind her. Surprised, she quickly swung her sword, but Beirut stopped it effortlessly with one hand. Undeterred, Hunter Chae continued her assault, launching rapid sword strikes, but Beirut dodged every single one with ease. Hunter Chow was astounded that Beirut could avoid all her attacks without even moving from his spot. In an instant, Beirut stood in front of her, roaring directly in her face, sending her flying backward from the force of the sound. Seeing this, Jin-Woo declared that the fight was over and asked if Hunter Chow was satisfied. Despite being clearly overwhelmed, Hunter Chow refused to give up and insisted on continuing. Jin-Woo, puzzled, couldn't understand why she was pushing herself so hard, knowing she had no chance of winning against Beirut. He realized that Beirut was different from his other shadow soldiers. In addition to being highly intelligent, Beirut was a lethal weapon, and Jin-Woo knew Beirut was holding back to avoid killing Hunter Chow. Meanwhile, Hunter Chae stared at Beirut with unwavering intensity, triggering the predator instinct in Beirut. Feeling insulted, Beirut lunged at her with his claws. However, Hunter Chow managed to dodge his attack, activating her sword dance. She leaped into the air to strike at Beirut, but in a flash, Beirut stopped her sword mid-strike and crushed it in his hand. Undeterred, Hunter Chow activated her blade of light, creating a radiant sword strike that managed to pierce Beiru's body. However, the attack triggered Beiru's killing instincts, reminding him of the Queen Ant's command to exterminate any enemy, and this woman was his target. Realizing the situation, Jin-Woo immediately ordered Beiru to stop, but having lost control, Beiru prepared to land a fatal blow on Hunter Chae. Hunter Chae closed her eyes, accepting what she believed to be her inevitable end. In a flash, Jin-Woo intervened, stopping Beiru's attack just in time. Beiru quickly stepped back, bowing and begging for forgiveness from his master. Jin-Woo then turned to Hunter Chae and asked, "Why are you pushing yourself so hard, risking your life for an entrance test to a nameless guild?" Hunter Chae stayed silent, not answering. Jin-Woo pressed her again, this time more seriously. "Perhaps you're interested in me?" Hunter Chae was stunned by the question. After a moment of hesitation, she admitted her feelings, her face flushing with embarrassment. Meanwhile, the scene shifted to the United States Bureau of Hunters, where Michael and Mrs. Sellner stood facing David Brennan, the director of the bureau. Michael apologized, feeling ashamed about the earlier incident involving son Jin-Woo. However, David, with a sharp gaze, firmly stated that he hadn't summoned them for an apology. He demanded an explanation of what had actually happened. Michael explained that, based on Mrs. Sellner's earlier observations, she had identified son Jin-Woo as one of the kings. David, his gaze sharp, asked Mrs. Sellner for a more detailed explanation, questioning whether this meant Jin-Woo's power rivaled that of a national-level hunter. Mrs. Sellner clarified that all awakened hunters were connected to the other side, and that she could perceive this connection. She explained that awakened individuals who gained immense power from the other side were surrounded by a brilliant light, which she referred to as King. However, when she observed Jin-Woo, she saw no such light. Instead, there was only darkness, and that darkness emanated solely from him. David, taken aback by this revelation, asked, "Does this darkness mean that Jin-Woo is evil?" Mrs. Sellner cautiously explained, "It's not about good or evil. The darkness is the source of his power, an extraordinary strength that doesn't come from the other side, but is entirely his own and limitless." Rising from his chair, David approached Mrs. Sellner, thanking her for the valuable information. He then instructed Michael to follow him to the 24th basement floor. Inside the elevator, David revealed his plan to Michael. If Mrs. Sellner's abilities failed, they would resort to alternative measures to secure son Jin-Woo. David reminded Michael of the S-rank gate incident that had devastated the western United States. During that time, America had offered an immense reward to the 5 strongest hunters who survived the catastrophe. That event had marked the emergence of a monster with national-level power, the inextinguishable flame, the dragon Kamish. This terrifying creature had claimed the lives of dozens of elite hunters before it was finally defeated. However, Kamish left behind something far more valuable than destruction. After reaching a heavily guarded special chamber, David opened a thick door, revealing the rune stone from Kamish's corpse, perfectly preserved for the past 8 years. David regarded it as a priceless legacy, something no national-level hunter had witnessed firsthand since then. Nearby, Kamish's meticulously preserved skull rested, a majestic relic from the tragic event that had shaken the world. Meanwhile, in his apartment, Jin-Woo stood before a mirror, noticing changes in his appearance. He looked taller and more handsome than before, which led him into a moment of reflection. He then approached his younger sister, Gina, and asked for her opinion on his new look. Surprised, Gina responded with confusion, wondering where this newfound confidence was coming from. A playful sibling quarrel ensued, but Jin-Woo ended the argument by mentioning his plan to establish a guild, naming it Solo Guild. Gina found the name odd, pointing out that with his ability to summon numerous shadow soldiers, it technically wasn't solo. Mildly annoyed, Jin-Woo admitted she had a point and asked for another suggestion. Gina proposed Ahjin Guild, combining her name with a phrase meaning "I move forward." Jin-Woo agreed, finding the name more meaningful. Meanwhile, in her apartment, Hunter Chae was lost in thought, replaying the events of the gym test at the Hunter Association. Her face flushed every time she recalled the moment. Tossing and turning in bed, she felt restless, worrying that Jin-Woo might now see her as strange. Yet, she tried to reassure herself, knowing that her feelings were justified given that Jin-Woo had once saved her life. Suddenly, she was drawn into her subconscious. There she saw the shadow of Min Bang-yu reaching out to her. The shadow, appearing fearful, pleaded with her to deliver an urgent message to Jin-Woo. He must be cautious with his power. Chao abruptly awoke, certain that what she had experienced was no mere illusion. The scene shifted to the Knights Guild office, where Guildmaster Park Jong-soo received a report about a large rank gate that had appeared in their territory. However, tackling such a gate would require at least one S-rank hunter on the raid team, which frustrated him, as it would mean relinquishing the raid rights to another guild. One of his members suggested seeking Sun Jin-Woo's assistance. After some thought, Jong-soo deemed the idea reasonable. Collaborating with Jin-Woo would not only protect the Knights Guild's reputation as one of the major guilds, but also ensure a safe raid. He decided to approach Jin-Woo directly at his new guild's office. At Jin-Woo's guild office, he proposed Ahjin Guild as the name for their newly established guild. Jin-Ho seemed to prefer this over Solo Guild, and they agreed on the name. They then discussed recruiting founding members. Jin-Ho brought up Hunter Chae's recent visit, but Jin-Woo explained that she didn't meet the criteria he was looking for. Surprised, Jin-Ho questioned what kind of individual Jin-Woo wanted. Jin-Woo revealed that he was looking for someone trustworthy who wasn't overly concerned with guild activities. Their conversation was interrupted by a thunderous knock at the door. Jin-Woo opened it to find Guildmaster Park Jong-soo and two of his members standing there, their faces twisted as if they had just swallowed something unpleasant. Jin-Woo and Jin-Ho exchanged bewildered glances, unsure whether to welcome them or call the police. After an awkward pause, they were invited to step inside and begin the discussion. Jong-soo showed them a video of the massive gate that had recently appeared in their region. Jin-Woo asked if it was an S-rank gate, but Jong-soo explained that the association had classified it as an A-rank. However, the unstable magical energy emitted by the gate and its enormous size, larger than any seen in Busuzan, raised doubts about the accuracy of the A-rank classification. Since the Knights Guild lacked an S-rank hunter, the association refused to allow them to conduct the raid. In response, Jiangsu proposed a partnership with Jin-Woo, offering 20% of the raid's profits as compensation. Jin-Woo firmly countered, demanding a 50/50 split and emphasizing that the partnership should be guild to guild, as he had just founded the Ahjin Guild. Jiangsu tried to negotiate a 40/60 split, but Jin-Woo stood his ground, refusing to collaborate unless his terms were met. After a brief pause, Jong-soo noted that Jin-Woo had a strange vibe. Despite his youth, Jiang-soo decided to go ahead with the deal, but only if Jin-Woo could defeat the dungeon boss. Jin-Woo agreed, and they sealed the deal with a handshake. Jiang-soo mentioned that the raid would begin the following day and offered Jin-Woo a ride to the gate's distant location. Jin-Woo declined, citing unfinished business. That evening, as Jiang-soo and his team departed, Jin-Woo discreetly sent a shadow soldier into Jiang-soo's shadow. The next day, hunters gathered in front of the massive gate on Bususan's coast. The Knights Guild members, clad in luxurious gear, prepared for the raid. Jiang-soo kept glancing nervously at his phone's clock, noticing only 5 minutes remained until the raid was set to start. But Jin-Woo was nowhere to be seen. He regretted not escorting Jin-Woo directly the day before. Meanwhile, Jin-Woo stood in his apartment, gazing out at the overcast sky through the window. He wondered if Gina had remembered to bring an umbrella to school. After a brief moment of contemplation, he decided it was time to leave. Activating his shadow exchange skill, his body was enveloped in darkness and slowly vanished. The scene shifted to Gina's school, where 3 students were walking down a hallway toward an unused room to retrieve a statue. As they stepped inside, they found rows of dusty statues lined up, but in the corner of the room, a gate had appeared. One of the braver students stepped up to the gate and explained that a closed gate like this wasn't dangerous. It would usually take about a week to fully open, so the monsters inside wouldn't come out for some time. The 2 students behind him wondered whether the gate had just appeared or if it had been there for a while. Suddenly, the gate fractured, and a monstrous hand burst out, grabbing the brave student's head and lifting him into the air. He cried for help, but in an instant, his head was crushed, leaving the other two students frozen in terror. In the blink of an eye, the two remaining students were lying on the floor, covered in blood, showing just how fierce the orcs were. Orcs, natural hunters, with lower intelligence than humans, possess sharp instincts that make them deadly trackers. One of the orcs scanned the area, noticing the building's maze-like structure. It looked like a castle filled with humans to hunt. He decided to begin the hunt and ordered the others to call for reinforcements. The orcs started hunting, slaughtering all the humans they came across. The scene shifted again to an A-rank gate in Buzusan, where Jin-Woo had just arrived and noticed that the gate looked much larger up close. He observed how well organized the Knights Guild was, with their collection team, mining team, and strike team, consisting of 13 A-rank hunters and 20 B-rank hunters. Suddenly, the hunters on site swarmed around Jin-Woo, showering him with praise for his success during the Jew Island raid and eagerly asking if he would be leading this raid himself. A young woman stepped in to stop the commotion. It was Jong Yirim, the main healer of the Knights Guild strike team. Shortly after, Jang Soo arrived and clarified that he would be the one leading the raid, with Jin-Woo's role being to protect them during the operation. Hearing this, some hunters started grumbling, questioning why the guild master always insisted on leading and wondering if they were considered so weak that they needed Jin-Woo's protection. One cocky hunter boldly asked Jin-Woo if he really thought the elite Knights Guild members were so feeble that they needed his help. Jang Soo quickly stepped in, explaining to Jin-Woo that his team could be a bit rough around the edges, but this was just how things worked in the Knights Guild. Checking his phone, Jang Soo raised his voice and commanded the team to begin the raid. The scene shifted to the Hunter Association office, where a female dispatcher answered an emergency call. A panicked schoolgirl was on the line, saying that a horde of monsters had appeared at her school and was hunting people. Trying to calm her down, the dispatcher reassured her that hunters were on their way to save her. She then asked the girl to describe the monsters. Stammering through her words, the girl said they looked like humans, but with hideous faces and green skin. The description immediately clicked. These were orcs. Panicked, the dispatcher told the girl to run, as orcs could smell their prey. Unfortunately, the sound of something falling on the phone, followed by a long scream, echoed. This left an eerie silence for the dispatcher, who heard the phone go dead. The school was in chaos. Students were running out, desperately trying to escape, while those trapped inside were being relentlessly hunted by the orc monsters. With a threatening voice, the orcs discussed how half of the school had already been taken, and now they would move to the upper floors to slaughter the remaining humans. A group of students barricaded themselves inside a classroom, stacking desks and chairs against the door. But the orcs tore through the barricade with ease, shattering it. The students froze, paralyzed with fear, as a towering orc stepped into the room, a blood-stained sword in hand. One student tried to escape through another door, only to be cut down by an orc waiting outside. The monster sneered, mocking the humans' terror, ready to unleash more carnage. In the corner of the room, Gina and Sani found themselves trapped in the same terrifying situation. Gina, paralyzed with fear, repeatedly called out to her older brother in her mind. Sani, trying to muster some courage, reminded herself that she was a hunter, even if she was only an E rank. But Gina tried to stop her. At that moment, two orc monsters locked their gaze on the two girls. One of them sensed a faint magical energy from Gina. Without hesitation, the orc swung its axe to attack her. Sunny trembled, resigned to their fate. Suddenly, a shadow-high orc appeared, blocking the orc's attack. It was a shadow warrior, hidden in Gina's shadow. Gina was shocked, but a sense of relief washed over her as she realized the shadow creature belonged to her older brother. The shadow-high orc counterattacked, striking the orc so hard that it flew through the school's roof. Two more shadow-high orcs emerged, ready to protect their master's little sister. The scene shifted back to the raid in Buzusan, where the hunters had entered a dungeon that resembled the ruins of an ancient tomb. Soon, they came face to face with a twin-headed ogre. Jiang-Su warned everyone to stay alert. Suddenly, the monster charged, swinging its massive axe. Jiang-Su quickly activated a protective spell, successfully blocking the attack. One of the hunters dashed up the ogre's body, slashing at its two eyes, causing the creature to lose its sight. Two other hunters moved in, slicing off its arms from behind. The mage hunters began casting spells, unleashing fire and lightning magic that struck the monster, causing it to collapse instantly. Jiang-Su then turned to Jin-Woo and said, "This raid won't be easy. If we're already facing twin-headed ogres at the start, the next challenge will be an army of undead." As predicted, hundreds of undead monsters appeared before them. The hunters immediately prepared for battle, but something was off. The undead hesitated, unsure of whether to attack. The hunters noticed something strange. Normally, the undead would rush in to attack at the first sight of an enemy, but now they seemed to be afraid of something. Meanwhile, Jin-Woo felt a wave of boredom sweep over him. He had hoped for a fight with higher-level monsters in this dungeon, and he wondered if bringing his mom along would have provided a greater challenge. Suddenly, he sensed a strong signal from the shadow soldier he had placed on Gina, signaling something bad about his sister's situation. Jin-Woo quickly turned to Jiang-Su and explained that he had to leave immediately. There was an urgent issue he couldn't ignore. Jiang-Su refused, insisting that Jin-Woo's presence was crucial for their safety. Torn between his loyalty to the guild and his concern for Gina, Jin-Woo made a quick decision. He left behind one of his shadow soldiers to handle things at the raid. Without further explanation, he summoned Baru. The appearance of the shadow soldier stunned Jiang-Su and his team, as they recognized Baru as the Ant King from the Jeju Island raid. With no time to waste, Jin-Woo ordered Baru to protect the humans while giving him the freedom to handle any non-humans as he saw fit. Baru nodded and began to prepare, releasing his powerful aura. The chilling presence of Baru sent a shiver through the hunters around him, who now regretted their earlier disrespect toward Jin-Woo. To further strengthen their defenses, Jin-Woo summoned more ant shadow soldiers. He ensured that 20 of them would be enough to help complete the raid. However, Jiang-Su and Yaram expressed concerns about the shadow soldiers losing control. Their worries offended Jin-Woo, who firmly pointed out that it was better to accept the help than to have none at all. His anger left them with no choice but to reluctantly agree. Frustrated and eager to leave, Jin-Woo felt the need to act immediately, but with his shadow exchange skill still in cooldown, frustration began to mount. Without wasting another moment, he sprinted toward the exit at full speed. Just then, he leaped over the undead army and quickly summoned Kaisel. He activated his Domain of the Monarch skill, boosting Kaisel's stats by 50%, and ordered him to fly as fast as possible to Gina's location. The scene shifted to the school, where the Shadow Warrior High Orcs had defeated the Orc monsters. The students, watching in shock and confusion, wondered if the three monsters they had seen were actually protecting them. One of the Shadow Warrior High Orcs stood carefully guarding Gina. It then pointed in a direction, telling Gina that a new threat was about to appear. Meanwhile, inside the school dungeon, an orc warlord, Brocker, the chief of the Red Blade tribe, sat on his throne, waiting for what was to come. Soon, one of Brocker's subordinates reported that the humans, once in danger, were now being protected by 3 Shadow Warrior High Orcs. Brocker was stunned, unable to believe that the powerful orc warriors couldn't defeat the High Orcs. Furious, he ordered his subordinates to lead the way, ready to slaughter them himself. The scene shifted back to the dungeon, where the Shadow Ant soldiers began to move. This sight filled the hunters with fear, worried that the summoned creatures might lose control and turn on them. Jiang-Su pondered whether they should retreat from the dungeon, but then remembered the reporters waiting outside. He started to think of an excuse to give them, considering telling them they were retreating because they feared Jin-Woo's summoned soldiers. Suddenly, Baru appeared in front of him, startling Jiang-Su and sending a chill of fear through his body. Baru didn't give Jiang-Su a chance to retreat, tossing something at him before continuing down the dungeon. It turned out to be the head of a Death Knight monster. The hunters witnessing this were astonished, commenting on how easily the ants had taken down such a high-level monster. Jiang-Su smiled, Realizing the advantages of having ants this strong, he urged his team to continue the raid. However, without him noticing, his team had already advanced ahead, following the ant shadow soldiers. The scene shifted back to the school, where a fierce battle raged between Grokter and the 3 shadow warrior high orcs. The roars of the orcs echoed through the air, as if cheering for their favorite wrestler. Grokter, proudly displaying the tattoos across his body, acted as though each mark was a glorious testament to the countless battles he had fought, despite the possibility that some of them could have been from drunken night. He stared down the shadow warriors, challenging them to prove their worth. Grokter swung his sword with full force, but one of the shadow warriors managed to block the strike. Surprised, Grokter intensified his attack and succeeded in slicing one of the warriors in half. However, the split warrior quickly regenerated in seconds. Grokter was left speechless, as if he had just witnessed a magic trick gone wrong. Suddenly, a sharp pain hit his head, accompanied by a mysterious command urging him to kill a human. Realizing he needed to end the fight quickly, Grokter shifted his gaze to Gina, who was hiding behind one of the shadow warriors. He soon realized that the source of the shadow warrior's magic power was the girl. Grokter ordered his subordinates to relentlessly attack the shadow warriors. The orcs rushed in, surrounding the warriors and launching brutal attacks, overwhelming them with sheer numbers. Meanwhile, the students witnessing the chaos were losing their minds, panicking, as if they had just seen a ghost. Grokter saw his chance and grabbed Gina by the head with his massive hand, preparing to finish her off. Suddenly, he felt an ominous aura approaching. His body trembled with fear. In a hurry, he released his grip and warned his subordinates to brace for impact. A massive explosion demolished the school wall, and a figure stepped forward, calmly telling Gina that everything would be okay. It was Jin-Woo, who had just arrived with Kaisel, smashing through the wall. Grokter realized the terrifying presence in front of him and introduced himself as the chieftain of the Red Blade tribe. However, he then asked about Gina's friends, making sure they were alright. But when Jin-Woo saw his sister's face, he realized she had just been grabbed by that ugly monster, and that only fueled his anger further. Jin-Woo summoned Igris to protect Gina, and then called forth several Shadow Knights to escort the students out of the area. As the humans tried to flee, the monsters prepared to attack, but Jin-Woo immediately stared them down, commanding them in the monster's tongue to stay put. With the help of the shadow soldiers, the students were successfully evacuated. Once everyone was safe, Grokter began to wonder if the immortal warriors he had seen earlier were under Jin-Woo's control, and how Jin-Woo could speak their language. Jin-Woo, consumed by rage, remained silent. Seeing no response from him, Grokter ordered his troops to attack. The monsters charged forward. When one of the orcs swung its axe, Jin-Woo swiftly grabbed its arm and slammed the creature to the ground with cold brutality. He crushed its head under his foot. 2 more monsters rushed at him. Jin-Woo activated his Dominator touch skill and, with a wave of his hand, easily controlled their bodies. With another swift move, Jin-Woo shattered both monsters' bodies instantly. Watching this, Grokter couldn't believe how easily his forces had been defeated. In a flash, Jin-Woo grabbed Grokter by the head and smashed him hard against the wall. Jin-Woo's fury boiled over as he looked at the bodies of the massacred students. He demanded to know why the monsters were so merciless toward humans. Grokter explained that they were under orders to kill humans. With a sharp glare, Jin-Woo asked if that order included killing him too. Panicking, he then coldly declared that the orc's death would be painful. Scene shifted back to the dungeon, where shadow ant soldiers were seen feasting on the corpses of the undead army they had defeated. Yaram, noticing the high value of the monster corpses, tried to snatch one from the jaws of a shadow ant soldier. However, her actions disrupted and angered the soldier. Realizing her powers were outclassed by a summon, as they ventured deeper into the dungeon, they arrived at the boss room. The room was guarded by high-level undead soldiers with archleashes floating above them. The appearance of the archleashes shocked the hunters, as they realized these monsters were far more powerful than the Death Knight they had faced before. Jiangsu anxiously warned his team about the archleashes, telling them how these monsters had once wiped out the Gold Dragon Guild in China. causing a dungeon break that only national-level hunter Lu Ji Gang had been able to stop. The undead soldiers present in the dungeon were no joke, as their strength surpassed that of a rank hunters. But the situation took a turn for the worse when these soldiers began to revive, cutting off their escape routes. Panic set in as Jiang Su yelled at Yarim to block the entrance. Yarim quickly used her holy wall skill, summoning a magical barrier to hold off the advancing undead. Jiang Su realized, under mounting pressure, that without Jin-Woo's intervention, completing this raid would be nearly impossible. Yarim warned Jiang Su that her barrier would only last for another 5 minutes. Amid the chaos, Baru remained composed, moving steadily toward the dungeon boss and its minions. The archleashes were confused, wondering why the monarch's elite forces were attacking them. They had believed they were allies. Without hesitation, Baru pointed to the archleashes and said, "We were chosen by the monarch, you weren't." Shocked, the archleashes demanded confirmation directly from the monarch. Before they could react, Baru closed the distance in a flash, delivering a brutal blow. "You talk too much for someone who's about to meet their end," he taunted. With a forceful strike, Baru slammed the archleash into the ground, ripped out its life core, and crushed it to pieces. In a matter of seconds, the dungeon boss was defeated, and the undead army crumbled, lifeless once again. Baru let out a victorious roar, clearly proud of his action. From a distance, Jiang Su watched in awe. Summoning beasts usually drained a summoner's energy, but Jin-Woo appeared unfazed, as if he hadn't even broken a sweat. It was clear to Jiang Su that Jin-Woo was on an entirely different level, beyond anything any major guild could handle. It felt almost unfair, like watching someone speedrun a game while everyone else was stuck on the tutorial level. Yun, completely amazed by Jin-Woo's power, suggested that they team up with his guild. Jiang Su, however, was skeptical, sensing that it might be too good to be true. Yun hesitated, but admitted that a hunter as powerful as Jin-Woo probably didn't need a backup. With his strength, he could clear high-level dungeons with the same ease most people put into reheating leftovers. However, the scene transitions to a school where hunters have arrived to evacuate the victims. The air is heavy with the sorrowful cries of parents mourning their lost children. Reports confirm that 213 students have perished in this dungeon break. Music fades in. Meanwhile, an association vehicle speeds through the traffic. Mr. Go, concerned about the incident, shows Jin-Woo a graph on his phone that tracks the increasing number of gates opening across Korea over the past 6 months. Similar events are happening globally as more individuals awaken and become hunters, with new gates emerging as if the world itself is trying to create a new balance. Jin sends in the man, Mr. Go, then hands Jin-Woo a document containing official requests from several major countries: Japan, China, Russia, the United States, and even the Middle East. These nations are eager to establish contact with him, offering to recruit him into their ranks. Mr. Go stresses that the decision is ultimately Jin-Woo's to make, but also expresses concern about the potential consequences for Korea. If someone of Jin-Woo's caliber were to leave, the country might struggle to adapt to the profound changes that were unfolding. Shortly after, they arrive at the hospital where Gina is being treated. As Jin-Woo steps out of the car, Mr. Go reassures him that the association is willing to offer anything to persuade him to remain in Korea, and asks him to name any request he has. Jin-Woo leans forward, his gaze intense. He states his desire to enter high-level dungeons alone. Mr. Go hesitates for a moment, aware that this request violates the Hunter Association's headcount regulations, which are in place to protect hunters from unnecessary danger. However, he realizes that Jin-Woo's ambition to establish his own guild is tied to this request. Jin-Woo confirms that he simply wants to operate independently. Though the request is difficult, Mr. Go acknowledges that it isn't entirely impossible. He tells Jin-Woo that he will handle the matter, promises to take care of it. The scene shifts to Jin's guild office, where Jin-Ho is on the phone with his cousin, Yoo Hae-In, a rank hunter and celebrity in Korea. Jin-Ho invites Soo Hae-In to join his guild, assuring her that being part of an unofficial guild would be more advantageous than staying tied to her father's guild. Soo Hae-In is skeptical, questioning whether Jin-Ho is trying to scam her. However, Jin-Ho, with a mysterious tone, insists that she'll be surprised when she learns who the guild master is. He urges her to come and see for herself, piquing Chae Hae-In's curiosity. At the guild office, Jin-Woo asks Jin-Ho about the woman with him. Jin-Ho explains that she is his cousin, Chae Hae-In, and a rank hunter. Chae Hae-In is stunned upon recognizing Jin-Woo as the famous S-rank hunter of Korea. Jin-Woo smirks and playfully nudges Chae Hae-In, commenting on how easily she gets surprised for someone who is a celebrity. As they continue talking, Jin-Woo confirms that Jin-Ho has already explained everything. Chae Hae-In agrees to join Jin's guild, admitting that she prefers this option over joining her father's guild. She then asks if she can take a picture with Jin-Woo and post it on Instagram. In no time, the post goes viral, amassing over 200,000 likes, with the caption, "First day at Jin Guild." Hunter Chow stumbles upon the post and is visibly stunned, her body trembling slightly, like a phone running on 1% with no charger in sight. The scene then transitions to the National Assembly building of Korea, where a meeting is underway to discuss Jin-Woo's request. Congressman Jin-Woo firmly opposes the request, arguing that it's illogical for summoned creatures to be counted as raid members, deeming it unworthy. He insists that the Hunter Association must remain fair and impartial, and approving such a request would show favoritism toward Jin-Woo. Nam presses Mr. Go for clarification, his expression serious. Mr. Go acknowledges that this could be seen as preferential treatment for Jin-Woo. He then asks the room if they had to choose between a raid composed of 20 rank hunters or one led by Jin-Woo to handle a dungeon break, which would they prefer? Mr. Go takes a jab at Congressman Nam, mentioning that Nam's new apartment is located near the Hunters Guild. He points out that, like most wealthy individuals, Nam has chosen to live in a safe area close to someone powerful enough to protect him. This, he notes, is reflective of a global trend where guilds worldwide are racing to recruit Jin-Woo. He reminds everyone that, in the event of an S-rank gate appearing, who else would be capable of protecting their country the next day? With this, Jin's guild successfully secures preferential treatment from the Korean Hunter Association and begins its first raid. As the association staff secures the perimeter, the atmosphere shifts suddenly when reporters swarm around Jin-Woo, bombarding him with a slew of questions. They ask about his thoughts on his guild's debut raid and his relationship with the famous celebrity, Chae Hae-In. Just then, Ging-shil appears, attempting to manage the situation. Jin-Woo questions whether the association is failing to protect his privacy. Ging-shil reassures him that his personal data has been kept secure, but information about the gate's location is hard to keep under wraps. He also advises Jin-Woo to refrain from posting on Instagram in the future. Jin-Woo gives a sheepish smile, realizing that his photo with Chae Hae-In has thrust Jin's guild into the media spotlight. Meanwhile, Jin-Ho is taken aback by the size of the gate, feeling they might need to hire a mining team to handle it. He worries they won't be able to manage it on their own. However, Jin-Woo summons his shadow soldiers, explaining that they will take care of the work. Curious, Ging-shil pulls out a manometer to measure the magical power of one of Jin-Woo's shadow soldiers. The result shocks him. One shadow soldier possesses strength equivalent to a B-rank hunter, or even higher. With power like that, Ging-shil thinks, only a fool would challenge Jin-Woo. Equipping his combat gear, Ging-shil explains that the association president has ordered him to observe the raid's safety, so he will join as a monitor. Jin-Woo asks if he's sure, and Ging-shil confidently assures him that it's no big deal. However, his expression soon changes as he witnesses the brutal efficiency of Jin-Woo's shadow soldiers in action. The Shadow Knights tear through a rank monsters with ruthless precision, with tanks slashing through a monster's head in one swift strike. Iron commands the ant soldiers to slaughter the approaching monster hordes on the other side. Boo effortlessly decapitates monsters with his razor-sharp claws. Ging-shil watches in awe as the monster's regenerative abilities are futile against the shadow soldiers. His gaze shifts to Igris, who wields the Demon King's sword. As Igris swings his blade, crackling arcs of magical lightning tear through the air, exploding in a dazzling spectacle and obliterating the monsters with ease. Gingshil is dumbfounded by the display, realizing that these summoned creatures surpass A-rank hunters and might even rival S-rank hunters. He acknowledges that facing them in combat would be a battle already lost. Meanwhile, the ant soldiers continued devouring the monster heads with unsettling focus and zeal. Annoyed, Jin-Woo kicked one of them onto the dungeon ceiling, sternly reminding the soldiers that monster corpses were valuable, not free meals. He then turned to the other shadow soldiers, making it clear that standing idle wasn't an option. The magic crystals weren't going to gather themselves. Gingshil stood there, speechless. This was something he had never witnessed before. Jin-Woo managed everything effortlessly on his own. At that moment, Gingshil understood why the association president had insisted on him observing this raid. With all the guardian monsters defeated, only the dungeon boss remained, a colossal humanoid serpent wielding 2 tridents. Jin-Woo decided to recall some of his shadow soldiers back into the shadows, a move that puzzled Gingshil. Why reduce the number of summons when they could easily handle the boss? Gingshil asked. Jin-Woo casually twirled his daggers, replying, "If I rely too much on my summons, my own skills will get rusty." The dungeon boss attacked with full force, but Jin-Woo swiftly dodged, dashing along the massive creature's body with unbelievable speed. In a single decisive strike, he slashed its head, splitting it in half. The A-rank dungeon boss was defeated. A system notification appeared. "You have killed the dungeon boss." Jin-Woo also received a notification that his level had increased to 101, and all of his job-specific skills had leveled up, including Shadow Extraction, Save Shadow, Domain of the Monarch, and Shadow Exchange. A satisfied grin spread across his face. With the cooldown of Shadow Exchange reduced by an hour, he felt more confident about being able to better protect his mother and sister in the future. Near the monster's corpse, Gingshil was unable to hide his awe. He realized that Jin-Woo had pierced through the creature's incredibly tough scales, using just his 2 daggers. Jin-Woo approached the dungeon boss's body and muttered a single word: "Arise." Dark shadows slowly emerged from the corpse, forming a new shadow soldier, an elite knight. Jin-Woo noted that the summon was smaller than the original creature, but almost as powerful as Tusk. He approached the new shadow soldier, touched its head, and named it Gima. Meanwhile, Jin-Ho was in awe, astonished by Jin-Woo's ability to turn such a powerful monster into his summon. However, his attention quickly shifted as the dungeon ceiling began to crumble, signaling that the dungeon was about to collapse. Jin-Ho warned Jin-Woo to leave immediately. Jin-Woo understood. Outside, waiting reporters were left speechless as they watched the towering shadow soldier emerge from the gate, carrying the boss's massive corpse on its shoulders. Camera flashes filled the air as the spectacle captured public excitement. Tusk, feeling like a celebrity, flashed an awkward yet proud grin, soaking in the attention. Jin-Woo and Jin-Ho realized that their debut raid had garnered massive public attention. Meanwhile, Gingshil looked visibly shaken as he exited the dungeon, the terror of what he had witnessed still haunting him. Even at the Hunter Association office, he appeared as though he had seen a ghost. As he reported to Mr. Go, cold sweat trickled down his face. Gingshil stated that what he had just experienced wasn't a typical raid, it was a massacre. Seeing Gingshil's condition, Mr. Go advised him to take a rest. In his mind, Mr. Go couldn't believe that Jin-Woo had managed everything on his own, defeating monsters, mining magic crystals, and even transporting the boss's corpse. He realized that calling Jin-Woo a one-man raid team was an understatement. The most fitting title would be One-Man Guild, where Jin-Woo was the guild himself. Mr. Go was now certain that his initial impression of Jin-Woo had been correct. The global rankings of top hunters were about to be drastically reshaped. The scene shifts to Shinjuku district in Tokyo, Japan. A massive gate suddenly appeared in the sky, materializing out of nowhere. The people in the area were stunned, unable to move, as the ominous gate exuded an overwhelming sense of menace. Everyone stood frozen, staring in silent shock at the terrifying phenomenon. Meanwhile, inside Japan's National Assembly building, 4 S-rank hunters from the Draws Sword Guild entered the hall, but their arrival was met with sneers from 3 congressmen. They taunted the hunters, pointing out that the Draws Sword Guild was on the brink of collapse after failing their raid mission on Jew Island. They also mentioned the guild had lost 7 S-rank hunters, including Gato Ruji. Hearing this, the hunters turned and shot piercing glares at the congressman, their eyes so sharp that the officials quickly backed off, pretending nothing had happened. Hasho let out an annoyed snort, remarking that people had grown bolder since God Ruji's death. An emergency meeting was taking place to discuss the appearance of an S-rank gate in Shinjuku district. High-ranking Japanese officials gathered to assess the situation. One congressman, visibly agitated, demanded to know why the Hunter Association hadn't taken action yet. He warned that any further delay could lead to a dungeon break, an event in which monsters spill out of the gate, threatening the entire country. Matsumoto stepped in, pointing out that it was impossible for S-rank hunters to handle an S-rank gate on their own. He stressed the urgent need for national-level hunters to confront the looming threat. One of the hunters suggested asking for Thomas Andre's help, but another congressman expressed doubts, questioning whether Japan could even afford to hire Thomas Andre, especially with gates appearing across the world and resources being stretched thin. He remarked that seeking assistance from other nations might not be a viable option during the global crisis. Sugioto broke the silence and said he knew someone who could help, as long as they were willing to pay. He was planning to recruit Yuri Orlov, an S-rank hunter from Russia. Meanwhile, a van cruised down the road, driven by Jin-Woo, on his way to the guild office. As he steered, he retrieved the key to Carton Temple from his inventory system, eagerly anticipating the mission the system would assign him after reaching level 101. Upon arriving at the parking lot, Jin-Woo figured Jin-Ho was probably working hard handling the office tasks all by himself. Suddenly, he noticed Hunter Chow arriving, but quickly turning around to avoid him. Jin-Woo swiftly approached her and directly asked about the reason for her visit. Awkwardly, Hunter Chae claimed her car was still parked there. Jin-Woo realized that it was because he had used the shadow exchange skill earlier. In reality, Hunter Chow wanted to ask about Jin-Woo's relationship with Soo-Hyun, but she dismissed that thought and came up with another reason instead. She explained that she had received a message from Hunter Minangu regarding Jin-Woo's powers. Jin-Woo was surprised by this and immediately invited her inside the guild office to discuss it further. Once inside, he asked straight away about the message and how Minangu had managed to deliver it. Hunter Chow explained that Shadow Bangyu had suddenly appeared in her subconscious. The figure had looked frightened and warned Jin-Woo to be cautious of his powers. He revealed that someone had pulled him out from an endless darkness. In a serious tone, Bangyu cautioned that Jin-Woo's powers were not only immensely strong, but also dangerous, hoping Jin-Woo would come to realize that as well. The next day, the Jin Guild went on another raid, but this time, it wasn't like a typical hunter raid. It felt more like a casual outing. The hunters snacked and chatted, while the shadow warriors did all the hard work, defeating the monsters in the dungeon. Jin-Ho commented on how convenient it was that they could relax, while the summoned creatures handled everything. However, Jin-Woo didn't quite see it that way. Pointing to one of the shadow ants, he noted how it attempted to use a monster carcass when they weren't paying attention for a moment. Jin-Woo reflected on Hunter Chow's words. If what she said was true, he realized it was more crucial to understand the source of his power rather than simply striving to become stronger. Jin-Ho then asked about Gina's condition after the dungeon break incident at her school. Jin-Woo explained that his younger sister just needed some rest. He then closed his eyes and activated the shadow storage skill at level 2. With the level up, he gained the additional share sense effect, which allowed him to see through the eyes of a selected shadow warrior. Jin-Woo saw Gina sound asleep in front of the TV, while Beirut, instead of standing guard, was happily holding the remote and engrossed in a Korean drama. Jin-Woo sighed, realizing this might explain why Beirut always spoke in such a peculiar way. Next, Jin-Woo shifted to another shadow warrior who was watching over his mother during her shopping trip. He observed Yeonho, who was engaged in a heated argument with Hunter Choi. However, his vision then shifted unexpectedly to a shower with water dripping down. It took him a moment to realize he was now looking at Hunter Chow, soaking in the bathtub. Jin-Woo was instantly startled, his face turning red, as he realized he had accidentally spied on Hunter Chow while she was bathing. He felt guilty and decided he owed her an apology, and maybe even a treat to make up for it. At the same time, Jin-Ho mentioned an S-rank gate that had appeared in Shinjuku District, Japan, which was expected to undergo a dungeon break in 3 days. Hunters from all over the world were being gathered, and he asked if the Japanese authorities had contacted Jin-Woo. Jin-Woo confirmed that they had indeed reached out, but he had responded that he had more pressing matters to attend to first. Jin-Woo then pulled out the key to Carton Temple and checked the countdown, which showed that 27 hours remained before the gate would open. He realized that this key wasn't just any ordinary item, it was an invitation from the system, and that place would undoubtedly hold all the answers regarding his powers. The scene transitions to a mansion, where a man is boasting about himself. This man is Yuri Orlov, a Russian S-rank hunter who specializes in support magic, particularly magic barriers. Facing him are Japanese hunters seeking his assistance. Sugioto begins to explain the situation they're dealing with regarding the management of rank gates emerging across Japan. Every major guild has deployed at least one S-rank hunter, leaving them short-handed to handle larger threats. Orlov chuckles softly, remarking that Japan's situation is quite dire. However, he claims he is the right person to evacuate the citizens quickly. Arrogantly, he offers his services for a rate of $3.6 billion annually or $10 million per day. For this price, he guarantees he can hold the gates for as long as needed. Hearing these figures, Sugioto is taken aback and questions if Orlov is truly serious about such high rates. With a sly grin, Orlov assures him that for $3.6 billion a year, he can save Japan. He even adds that his rates are cheaper compared to hiring Thomas Andre. Mockingly, Orlov tells Japan it has only one simple choice: pay $10 million per day to save the country, or let it crumble. To save money, Sugioto starts doubting Orlov's skills, stating that his big mouth better match his abilities. Confidently, Orlov retorts that hiring him is far more effective than employing hundreds of weak hunters, who are as incompetent as the 2 Japanese hunters sitting before him. Asho and Tuada were annoyed, not fully understanding what Orlov was saying, but it was clear he had just insulted them. Suddenly, Orlov unleashes his skill. A powerful barrier forms, trapping Hasho and Tuada within it. With a condescending tone, Orlov warns them not to move without his permission, and dares them to break free from the barrier if they can. Hasho and Tuada are shocked, realizing they cannot move at all. Reluctantly, Sugioto finally acknowledges Orlov's abilities and states that he will contact the government about the requested fees. Meanwhile, at his apartment, Jin-Woo is preparing to head out somewhere. His mother approaches him with a worried expression. Jin-Woo quickly reassures her not to worry as he opens the door, promising he'll be back soon. Just as he steps outside, a system notification pops up, informing him that the location of Carton Temple's gate will be revealed within seconds. At Jin's school, the area was cordoned off by police tape, and Hunter Association officers were working hard to secure the perimeter. They were puzzled by the appearance of a gate in the same spot twice, a rare and alarming phenomenon. A female officer, stationed nearby, quickly noticed someone approaching and stepped forward to block the path, warning the person not to get any closer. However, as soon as she saw who it was, she hesitated. It was Jin-Woo. Jin-Woo asked about the status of the gate, and the officer explained that it was a C-rank gate that had appeared 3 days earlier. About 2 hours ago, a group of hunters had already entered to handle the raid. Jin-Woo's eyes widened in shock. The gate wasn't supposed to activate until its location had been officially announced. Realizing something was wrong, Jin-Woo firmly insisted that the raid be stopped immediately, warning that everyone inside could be in danger. The officer, still confused, tried to stop him, claiming it was just a C-rank gate, but Jin-Woo ignored her and stepped forward, crossing the boundary into the gate. The officers outside stood dumbfounded. Inside the dungeon, the hunters were wrapping up their battle with the monsters and stood before a massive gate, struggling to open it despite their best efforts. While they were discussing possible solutions, Jin-Woo suddenly appeared, warning them that the gate was a trap. The hunters, shocked by his unexpected arrival, questioned how he knew it was a trap. Calmly, Jin-Woo explained that he had survived a similar double dungeon event and urged them to leave for their own safety. As Jin-Woo approached the gate, he noticed it behaved differently than before. A system notification appeared, revealing that the cart Inonan temple required a key to unlock it. Using the black key he had acquired earlier, Jin-Woo unlocked the gate, stunning the hunters. The raid leader, upset, argued that the dungeon belonged to their guild. He warned Jin-Woo not to overstep, simply because of his S-rank status. After a brief pause, Jin-Woo responded nonchalantly, allowing the raid leader to do as he wished. The raid leader stepped forward, only to be stopped by the system, which denied his access. In a flash, a massive stone statue inside the dungeon attacked with lightning speed. Jin-Woo quickly pulled the raid leader back, saving his life just in time. With the giant statue's gaze fixed on the hunters outside, Jin-Woo again warned them. The monsters inside were all equally deadly, and their only option was to report the double dungeon's appearance to the Hunter Association. Without waiting for their response, Jin-Woo entered the Carton Temple alone, and the gates slammed shut behind him. Inside, eerie blue flames illuminated the room, and towering statues lined the walls. As Jin-Woo ventured deeper, he realized that everything mirrored his previous encounter, though it felt different this time. No longer weak, Jin-Woo saw that the statues weren't living creatures, but puppets controlled by someone. He reached the room's most potent magical energy source, a hooded angel statue. Confronting it, he accused the figure of being the hidden boss of the double dungeon. When the statue remained silent, Jin-Woo mocked it, challenging it to speak. Suddenly, the statue's face twisted into a sinister grin, as though welcoming Jin-Woo's arrival. The scene shifts to Japan's international airport, where Yuri Orlov arrives. Reporters immediately surround him, eager for a statement, bombarding him with questions about how he plans to deal with the rank S gate threatening Japan. Orlov responds with unshakable confidence. He explains that he will approach it, as usual, by creating a massive magic circle around the gate and channeling all his magic into it. Using this method, nothing inside the gate will be able to escape. However, the reporters doubt whether Orlov will be able to handle a rank S gate on his own. Calmly, Orlov explains that as long as his barrier receives a sufficient mana supply, he can control the situation. To ensure this, they will need to set up mana crystals all over Tokyo. By absorbing energy from these crystals, his barrier will grow stronger, ultimately forming an impenetrable wall of defense. Orlov concludes arrogantly, assuring everyone that he will save them, urging them to remember their savior. News of Hunter Yuri Orlov's arrival spreads globally. In Korea, Mr. Go watches the broadcast with a heavy heart, pondering whether Orlov can truly contain the rank S gate. One thing is certain, though. If he fails, the consequences will be catastrophic. Mr. Go then asks for an update on Jin-Woo. Jinchul pulls up raid data from the Ahjin Guild and reveals something surprising. Despite being a newly formed guild with just one S-rank hunter, they are performing on par with major guilds. Mr. Go smiles faintly as he reads the report. He admits that a small guild holding its ground against the giants is highly unusual. Just as the conversation takes an interesting turn, Ginchul's phone buzzes. He quickly answers and learns that the gate that reappeared at the school is actually a double dungeon, and Jin-Woo has already entered it. Jinchul is stunned, realizing the situation is far more serious than they anticipated. Meanwhile, inside the dungeon, the angelic figure before Jin-Woo begins to tremble. Suddenly, the figure's 6 wings flap powerfully, creating immense pressure in the room. In one swift motion, the angel crushes the giant tombstone he was holding into pieces, delivering a daunting welcome for Jin-Woo. Jin-Woo watches carefully, feeling that if the rules written on the tombstone could be shattered so easily, then their very existence was pointless. With a sharp tone, Jin-Woo directly questions the entity, asking if he was the one who summoned him and who he truly was. The entity smirks and replies that the real question isn't who he is, but who Jin-Woo has become. He claps his hands, causing all the giant statues in the temple to start moving toward Jin-Woo. The entity declares that this will be the final test and promises to reveal everything once Jin-Woo passes it. Unfazed, Jin-Woo summons his shadow army, but the entity snaps his fingers, instantly nullifying the skill. Smirking, the entity states that the game doesn't work that way. This is the final test to measure Jin-Woo's own strength, not that of his army. A system notification appears. Class-specific skills are restricted for the final test. The use of potions, store functions, and recovery effects from leveling up or quest bonuses is prohibited. The test must be completed before leaving. Jin-Woo is stunned by the messages his trump cards have been wiped out in an instant. Despite many of his skills being restricted, he can still access his inventory. With no choice, he realizes that he must overcome this challenge using his own strength. At that moment, The giant statues close in on him. One statue swings a spear toward him, but Jin-Woo swiftly grabs it, snapping it in half with a single strike. He then hurls the broken tip at the statue's head, crushing it. At the same time, another statue attacks with a massive axe. Jin-Woo quickly draws his dagger and slices the axe in two. Using the broken axe as a foothold, he propels himself toward the statue and plunges his dagger into its head, destroying it in an instant. Meanwhile, several statues attack him simultaneously, but Jin-Woo withstands all their strikes. Above him, the angelic entity watches the battle with a smirk, recognizing Jin-Woo's incredible growth for a human. However, Jin-Woo felt that the test couldn't end just yet, and decided to add more challenges for his amusement. As if responding to his decision, the statue of God, which had been seated on the throne, began to rise and move. Jin-Woo was startled to see it. The greatest threat in the room was now joining the fight. The statue of God fixed its unsettling, intimidating gaze on Jin-Woo, grinning. The angelic entity smiled alongside it and declared, "Now it's time to worship God." The scene shifted to the Korean Hunters Association's office, where a meeting was taking place between Mr. Go and the chairman of the Japanese Hunters Association, Matsumoto Shago, accompanied by his interpreter Haneka. Without wasting time, Matsumoto handed over a document and explained that it was a contract stating Japan would refrain from taking any magic crystals from Jew Island. In exchange, they wanted to hire Hunter's son, Jin-Woo. Mr. Go responded coldly, stating that Jin-Woo was not part of the Korean Hunters Association. Matsumoto acknowledged this, but pointed out that since Jin-Woo was Korean, contacting him directly without going through the Korean Hunters Association would be nearly impossible. This was simply his attempt to negotiate with him. As he reviewed the letter in his hand, Mr. Go reflected on the fact that without Guruji handling the S-rank gate, things had become significantly more difficult. However, with the amount of money offered for Jin-Woo, the deal didn't sound too bad. Mr. Go set the letter down and decided to discuss the matter directly without an interpreter. Matsumoto was taken aback, questioning whether Mr. Go could speak Japanese. Calmly, Mr. Go revealed that it wasn't an issue, as he had spent his childhood in Japan, where his father had conducted business. After that, both interpreters left the room. Once only the two of them remained, Mr. Go warned Matsumoto to stop playing dirty. He had heard rumors of Matsumoto trying to take over the Draw's Sword Guild. Matsumoto rose from his seat, vehemently denying the accusation. However, Mr. Go remained calm and took out a black box, placing it on the table with a serious expression. He explained that it was a black box from Japan's transceiver, containing recorded communications from the Japanese team on Jew Island. The recordings revealed their plans to promote Guruji as a national-level hunter and eliminate Korea's S-rank hunters. Matsumoto froze in fear, his face turning pale, and cold sweat dripped down his forehead. Mr. Go unleashed a wave of intimidating magical energy and crushed the black box in his hand. With a piercing stare, he declared that he wouldn't publicize its contents, but he condemned Matsumoto's actions, which endangered not just one country, but all of Asia. Mr. Go emphasized that Matsumoto should be grateful to Hunter Sun Jin-Woo for ensuring the raid on Jeju Island ended in victory. Meanwhile, Jin-Woo was still fighting the giant statues, but was starting to struggle as they kept coming non-stop. Suddenly, Jin-Woo felt a shift in the air and turned to see the statue of God preparing to fire a laser from its eyes. Realizing there wasn't enough time to dodge, Jin-Woo quickly activated his Dominator Touch skill, controlling the nearby giant statues to form a shield. In the blink of an eye, the statue of God fired the laser, blasting through the shield and shattering it into pieces. Thanks to the temporary protection, Jin-Woo managed to avoid the full impact. Realizing just how dangerous that attack was, he decided his priority was to take down the statue of God first. Out of nowhere, a system notification popped up. Skill Dominator Touch has upgraded to its final form, Ruler's Authority. This new skill allowed him to use telekinesis on a much larger scale. The statue of God attacked again, attempting to stomp on Jin-Woo with its massive foot. Jin-Woo dodged with ease, leaping toward the statue. At the same time, the statue prepared for its next strike. Sensing the danger, Jin-Woo used his newly upgraded Ruler's Authority skill to alter his trajectory mid-air, narrowly dodging another deadly laser beam. For a moment, he marveled at how much stronger the skill had become. Now standing on the statue's shoulder, Jin-Woo didn't hesitate. He activated his mutilation skill, delivering a series of rapid critical strikes to the statue's face. However, the attacks only left scratches. The statue of God responded with a chilling grin. Frustrated, Jin-Woo realized that his attacks weren't enough. Moving swiftly, he positioned himself near a crack in the statue's form, concentrated all his power into his right arm, and delivered a punch with full force. The devastating blow caused massive destruction, and the statue of God collapsed to the ground. As Jin-Woo landed, the other giant statues immediately surrounded him, launching their attacks all at once. However, Jin-Woo remained calm and activated his ruler's authority. In an instant, a powerful telekinetic force slammed all the statues to the ground, crushing them completely. For a brief moment, Jin-Woo realized just how much stronger he had become through this battle. The angel statue, having observed the fight, began clapping slowly, as though applauding the performance. Jin-Woo glared at it, demanding that the angel entity keep its promise. But the angel just laughed. With a menacing smile, he confirmed that the test was not over yet. He revealed that he himself was the final test. Suddenly, a system notification appeared. An emergency quest has started. Your heart will stop if you do not defeat the enemy in 10 minutes. Jin-Woo was stunned and began to question the true identity of the entity. The statue responded through a system notification, coldly explaining that he was the architect of Jin-Woo's system. In other words, this being was the creator of the system that had guided Jin-Woo all along. To continue watching, please subscribe to the channel and click the next part in the comments below or on our channel. See you in the Season 4 video.